Hey, this is Sharms, your friendly neighborhood Footy Prime host. The FIFA Club World Cup is upon us. Starting June 14th, you can binge the entire tournament with our friends at DAZN. Not only will every game be streamed, but every game will be streamed for free. An easy email sign-up gives you access to watch Real Madrid, Man City, Bayern, Juventus, just to name a few. 63 matches, 29 days to crown the FIFA Club World Champion. So get in. Sign up for free at DAZN.com.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the U.S. men's national team. So a year out, as we mentioned, that they're co-hosting the World Cup, they are wobbling, but hard. So they were soundly defeated 4-0 by Switzerland in a friendly in Nashville, and they've lost 5 of their last 10 games under Pochettino, who was appointed in September of 2024. So they have come under some criticism, rightly so, but recently criticism for the likes of Christian Pulisic and other players who are not part of that men's Gold Cup roster, which is in sharp contrast to Canada's Gold Cup roster, which is a really talent-heavy roster. So Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, Tim Howard were among those who criticized the players. And I wanted to really hear what you guys had to say about it. Do you think it's warranted? Do you think it's valid? Or Craig, do you think that it's unfair that a lot of these players seeking some rest after, a season that is congested, it's demanding on these players. It's the modern era. It's not the same as when these other guys were playing. Are these comments valid?
To a point, I think. I think that even if you make yourself available to come in and play a few minutes or just be part of the squad, that you're willing to be there with your team, it shows a little bit of selfishness. I do understand the fatigue and wanting to have a break, but look at Ronaldo. What is he, 40? He showed up. Like, all these guys are showing up at all sorts of ages and making sure that they play for their national team, and they don't seem to have that desire. So there's criticism around that, and I understand it. I mean, Canadian team, Jesse Marsh made it quite clear there wasn't a single player wanted to miss out on the Gold Cup for Canada. It's kind of a little bit of a dig at the U.S., really, and he's right. He's right. But at the same time, there's some question marks about whether some of those players for Canada should be playing because they're out of contract.
I think the issue, though, is with the tournament and with U.S. soccer and with Canada soccer and Mexican soccer. In the past, they've rested players for this tournament. They've shown they don't really care about the Gold Cup like they should. Every year, it's not full strength U.S. Every year, it's not full strength Mexico, Canada. This is the first year in a while we've seen full strength squads from Canada and essentially Mexico as well, because of the World Cup, because it's their last competitive window to really, try stuff. So as much as I want to hammer Christian Pulisic and some of these players, I see where their heads are at. It's like, well, in years past, you haven't cared about this. Now you do. I'm knackered at the moment. And for Landon Donovan to come out and be quite vocal about it, he took a year off from international football.
He did.
Yeah, a year off. And he was well within his rights. He was going through stuff. One of the rest of the mind and the body, right? Was he questioned? I can't remember. He may have been questioned, but it's a little bit like the pot calling the kettle back here.
And they've been calling out for let the MLS players have a chance. Well, here we are. And if they played better against Switzerland, if they pulled off a result, this wouldn't be such a factor, would it?
Well, this is it. I think that it's more the magnifying glass, or the scrutiny is greater because the performances have been so poor.
Yeah.
And I think it was brought up, like Donovan's comments in particular were prompted by the reaction of a Cristiano Ronaldo and winning the Nations League, right? And then comparing that to the current state of the U.S. men's national team. But Clint Dempsey weighed in as well. I think so. So Donovan was the most pointed, and as some pointed out, it was hypocritical of him to make such statements. But Dempsey said whether it was the Gold Cup, Copa America, Confederations Cup, or the World Cup, I was not going to miss competitions. For me, I don't understand it because that was not my mentality. I always wanted to play in those games. So again, I see argument for you're a year out from a World Cup. If you're not going to rest, or if you're going to get rest, you need to get it at some point, and it needs to be now. So there, you have to prioritize that. But what I thought was interesting was the U.S. women's national team, and it's not exactly the same argument because they're 2 years out from a World Cup, no major competition as Casey Stoney's women's national team. But Emma Hayes is going to name a team where the only European-based player who's included in a roster, because they're facing Canada at the end of the month, or beginning of July actually, is Naomi Girma. Every other player who is in Europe is going to be given a rest. So if it's spearheaded or prompted by the coach, why is the reaction so different? Is this maybe an issue between Pulisic and his head coach in Pochettino? Do you see it more as like a power struggle between who is probably their veritable or their biggest star on the team, and Pulisic and Poch, Sharms?
Well, wasn't Pulisic referred to as the next Messi by someone once upon a time? No?
Somebody,
yeah. Yeah. She got hammered for it, didn't she? It could well be. Listen, things aren't going right under Poch. It's been an absolute disaster so far.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be the man to lead this team to a contending World Cup position. And like you said, they lost 5 out of 10 games. And like Craig said, this wouldn't be a big deal had they started winning games and playing better. So is a prickly relationship between the top player and the manager? Possibly. I mean, there's talk right now. I've seen articles being written, will Poch be fired before the World Cup? And at some point, you've got to decide, haven't you? Is he the man for the job or not? Because you can't continue this way. If they have a terrible Gold Cup, they might win this thing, right? It's still possible. Still the States. Still a good team. Yeah, they rested some players, but there's some good players in that squad. He could turn it around. What if, though, they crash out in the first round? I mean, you have to eat it, I think, and you've got to make a change at some point. I think Poch would be on the hot seat with a bad Gold Cup. Right now, I wouldn't say that. I don't know about you, Craig. I think he's probably safe at the moment, but he's got to perform at the World Cup, at the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I think he has to. And they're not really showing signs of improving, though. That's the thing. I mean, they're heading into this World Cup in a year from now, and they just look like crap. Really is really disappointing. Bad. It's
not even like they're just being outmuscled or losing some close games. They're being smashed.
Goals against is 6-1 in the friendlies, right? Like Turkey, versus like they lost 2-1, and I watched some of the back end of that match. And I guess my big question for you guys was Pochettino a bit naive about coming to the States thinking that the World Cup's a couple years away? Everyone's going to want to play. Every player will be available. And it's not the same in North America, or at least in the States, and maybe even Canada sometimes, but specifically in the States. Does the playing with the red, white, and blue and the stars, and does it matter as much as it used to for these players? Right.
Well, I mean, that job, Wonger, I think when he took that job, that was probably the best job in world football, wasn't it? You got a World Cup on the horizon.
You're right.
It's the US. You get a brilliant lifestyle. You got tons of money coming your way, not just the salary, but in the system. You got a good group of young players. There's no pressure because you're going to either win a Gold Cup or you're going to do really well in the Gold Cup. You're going to probably win or come close to winning a Nations League. There's no pressure, right? He walked into a brilliant situation, and it's all gone shit-shaped ever since, which is really thoroughly enjoyable.
I don't like that imagery. That imagery is not what I wanted to hear right now.
Shape.
Yeah. It can be various shapes there. A ship shape, right?
It can.
Ship shape.
Ship shape is far away from ship shape, right?
Yeah,
something
right.
Ship shape.
The opposite,
and then the other end of the spectrum is shit shaped.
Like Wong Johnson and Don Johnson.
Yeah. Yes.
They're actually, that spectrum is pretty small.
So
Poch is trying to shine that shit right now.
That's it.
He is buffing that turd.
I wanted to say, so Pulisic has since come out and made a statement after Tyler Adams also kind of answered for it, saying that we're kind of tuning it out. We're not paying attention to that. But Pulisic went on Golazzo America and said, to question my commitment, especially towards a national team, in my opinion, is way out of line. So I want to put this to you, Forrest. So if Jesse Marsh and I think it was Joseph Lowry on Twitter said Jesse Marsh dunking on the U.S. men's national team every chance he gets has to be the most life-giving, entertaining storyline of this World Cup cycle. Long may it continue. So he's getting his pot shots in when he can, or his pot shots.
His pot shots.
Yeah.
Show today.
Zing. So if Jesse Marsh and the Canadian men's national team, if we had, and Forrest, I'll bring this up later because you had a great point about Jonathan David. We don't know where he's headed yet. We've got the Sam Adekubi absolutely devastating Achilles injury for our men's national team. Sending thoughts out to him, sending lots of love. Is just a guy just can't catch a break. But I mean, that's the risk that you take, right? If you're not under contract every time you step on the pitch. So maybe you can speak a little to that. But first of all, what would our reaction have been? Would those players, say like a David or a Eustachio or an Alistair Johnson, players playing in Europe, facing all of that fixture congestion, if they decided to take a break, do you think that we would have been criticizing them as heavily?
I think it depends on the situation they're in. Like a Jonathan David out of contract, going to get a big one. We know that. If he said that, listen, I'm exposing myself in a really difficult, there's a lot of risks for me playing. And if he had an injury like Sam Adekubi had, what does that? It could be absolutely devastating. He's, when you're under contract, fine, that's guaranteed. I mean, we're talking about in the region of, for Jonathan David, a contract of $100 million. I mean, I don't think anybody would blame him if he sat it out. If somebody else sat it out, well, they can do that. They might get criticized. There might be lots of talk between the squad that you're not willing to put it in or be part of it. There could be some there. But for the most part, everybody wants to be a part of it because if you're not, there's a chance that you might not make that final squad. And it's so competitive. In the U.S., I just don't know what they're doing, and maybe they just feel that they're guaranteed those positions, and they're kind of just blasé about this whole summer Gold Cup, which is just bizarre to me.
I'm torn here because at some point the players have to use their own agency to protect themselves. When are these guys going to rest? There's more and more tournaments being put on the calendar. We're seeing the Club World Cup this summer, World Cup next summer. When will be their chance to rest? It is unsustainable physically for these guys to play 60-odd games, some of these players. I mean, I think Pulisic has been 50 the last 2 years. Right? That's too much football. And I know it's an old argument, but it's still, I think, one of the most pressing issues in the world game. You have to think about the athlete and not the dollar, don't you?
Yeah, and the player welfare. You're absolutely right. Of course, that's the counterpoint. Right? Is the player agency, and to say, I need this break, whether it's physical or it's mental. But just to give it context, so it's Pulisic, as well as his AC Milan teammate, Yunus Musa, Juventus's Weston McKennie and Tim Weah, as well as Gio Reyna, are scheduled or set to miss this Gold Cup for the U.S. men's national team. But I just wanted to put up, because again, I mentioned Craiger killing it on socials. So this is your tweet. So Jonathan David is a joy to watch, and our men's national team are lucky to have him. However, I do wonder about his contract situation. In fact, he's not yet signed for a new club. I hope he's well covered. There'll be some, but my guess is not anywhere close to his value.
Well written. Do you have AI at your house, Craiger?
Can you use AI?
No, don't use AI. Are you surprised, Craig? Oh, go ahead, Sharms.
No, I mean, it's a great point. I think as a Canadian sports fan, you just have to think and applaud Jonathan David for having the love and the loyalty to put that shirt on in his current situation. Now, he might have a deal in his back pocket. He might announce it on the eve of the Gold Cup. I hope he does, because it's a big gamble. Like you said, we all saw happen to Sam, a couple of days ago now. Just freaking awful. But yeah, what a huge gamble on his part. And I'm sure there's a big insurance policy, but like I said, it's not for $100 million. So no. I think we should just, let's just take it from the sportsman and say, thank you, John. Like, thanks so much. You love putting that red shirt on. In a time where we're questioning loyalty from international players, we don't question your loyalty one bit. You are a freaking player that will sacrifice for his nation. So well done. And let's hopefully he gets that big contract, big juicy packet of money coming his way. I'm sure he will.
Yeah,
he'll be fine. But I mean, and the contract's coming. But if I was his advisor or his agent or something like that, I don't know. If I'm in the same position and I just busted my ass for years and years and played 5 wonderful years in France, and you get away on a free transfer, and you're beloved by that club, and you're going to go to a top club around the world, a massive contract, what are you doing risking it? That's what I would say. With all due respect, I love the Gold Cup. I love playing for Canada. But if I'm in that same position without a contract, I mean, I'll go back to the Ipswich. When I left there, the rules were different. The Bosman ruling wasn't in place. So when your contract was up, the club still owned you. They needed to pay you at the same rate that they were doing the other time, but they can still get compensation for you. Well, they went away on a preseason tour, and I said, I'm not going away on that preseason tour. They called me selfish, called me all sorts of names. But the bottom line is, what happens if I get injured and I'm not under contract? They're going to cut you free as quick as you can imagine if you get injured. They don't give a shit. So protect yourself. That would be my advice.
And you know that he could have spoken to Jesse Marsh, Dubs, and explained this to him, and Jesse would have been, yeah, cool, I get it. We'll make something up.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You know, you're not needed this summer. You know that Jesse Marsh is the kind of coach that'd be cool with that. But
I agree.
Done that.
Going back to the American, watching it though, there is a level of just pure enjoyment, and the popcorn is popping, and the butter is melting, and I'm leaning.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. I'm leaning back, going, "Keep going," because it's when the dad gets involved, right? This 30-year-old man, Pulisic, who's making millions of dollars, and his dad has to come to his defense, and you're like, oh, Pops, what are you doing? Please.
That's the American way, though, in football, right? Look at the Reina situation.
Yeah, the Reina, exactly. The mom and the dad.
Stay in the background. Just shut up. The kids are adults
this
here.
is
reality
so
show.
American, and that's what was really happy. Like, it's that's the Schadenfreude of it all, right? You're like,
I think that's a modern day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. No,
a little bit.
For some players, yes. For some players, no. And I think it was always like this. There were always hockey parents. There were always soccer parents, all that kind of stuff, right? And you didn't know they were always, I mean, it is more modern, but I think you're just hearing about it more. I think those parents who lived through their kids or were their kids kind of prime agent, that always happened. But I do find it quite interesting and quite funny. I do find it funny and enjoyable that his dad got into it. Like I can
imagine my dad. Imagine my dad, like, coming to my defense, like, be like talking me down, blasting me, like, before I knew it, I'm worth less. Thanks, Dad. I know. I'm a bang average player. I know. Thanks for reminding everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant
we'll play with the opposition, James.
coming to your defense of the podcast.
That way. And then before
podcasting host.
Yeah, but podcast. Remember, you used to be on national television. Now you're podcasting. Way to go.
Amy is better than you.
Oh God,
exactly.
I definitely am not.
No, you are.
No.
Let's not go there, because we get a conversation going, with the comments, and then I feel really bad about myself.
No, stop. But I just want to say, and this is me just taking a shot here at the US, because I see them kind of faltering and wobbling and taking a shot while they're failing or while they're down. But speaking of Jonathan David, it's such a valid point that you make, Forrest, and I'm sure his agent is in his ear. I would even be surprised if Jesse Marsh hasn't said, is this really what you want to do? But I think the mentality for Canada now, and it's weighing that risk versus reward. Sure, he's taking a risk, but I think playing with Canada, and you know this, Forrest, better than anyone, so does Jimmy, that it's always been a risk, right? Almost to play with Canada, to suit up for your national team. But there's such a sense of pride to do it. And they're at a point now where they're really on the verge of something. So I think you weigh that risk versus reward. The risk, I don't think, is that great, because he sees the potential. He sees what's possible with this men's national team. Whereas in stark contrast, in the US, I think complacency has absolutely taken over there as that prime emotion and like the feel in that group, where they've had some success. They've got this big star power guy as the head coach who might be bigger even than the squad of what is meant to be almost their golden generation of talent, but they have failed to meet expectations at every single turn. And I think it's just a little bit of unrest, but mostly complacency. So it's not the same argument when that window comes. There's no urge, there's no desire to go and pull on that jersey. And there might be some US fans that say, well, that's unfair. And it might be a little bit, but from the outside looking in, that's two very different narratives looking at the Canadian men's national team and the US men's national team.
Happy family and dysfunctional family. Where do you want to have Thanksgiving dinner?